listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast, where we uncover inspiring things about our community through the stories of inspiring people who call it home. I am Dee Harrell, and this is the creator of Oh My Omaha, the blog, and the blogosphere's friendliest face herself, Kim Reiner.
Hi there.
Okay, so what do we got going on today, Kim?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm excited about this episode, Dee. We'll be talking about sports, specifically volleyball, which I think you'll be excited about, and baseball, and inspiring athletes.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So do you have any sports things going on with the kids?
Really just volleyball again. Like, it seems to be sucking in our life. Although, like, Charlotte really she likes to do it more for fun than competitively, but she's still a giant out there.
I was going to say, how much taller is she than everybody?
So she's on a 5th and 6th grade team, and she's in 6th grade, and she's already like a foot taller than her 6th grade teammates. Yeah. So, like, she's just a beast.
I was like 5'7" from like grade 4 on. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to be like super tall. And then I stayed 5'7" and 5'8".
Right. I tell her, like, they're going to catch up, Charlotte. Don't get too used to this. But now she's loving it.
She should take advantage of it. It's awesome.
She was in basketball for a bit, and I'm like, this is awesome. You're going to just like win everything. And she didn't like basketball so much. So, yeah.
I miss that age of.
She's trying swimming too. Both kids are doing swimming.
Did they do that last year?
No, they did in the winter for the first time. And since they both won, and Charlotte won in relays, and Henry got 3rd, and I think freestyle, and they both liked actually winning. So they're like, all right, we can do this. We enjoy it. So.
My kids didn't do any of my sports, so maybe I can help coach or advise yours instead. Totally. Mine never wanted to do mine.
No.
They did their own.
Oh, we tried. We tried to get them in soccer.
Yeah.
It didn't last long.
Yeah. Mine didn't like it either. They did 1 year.
Yeah.
But, whatevs.
Yes.
Oh, well. Okay, so why don't we introduce our amazing guest for today?
Yes, definitely. So I met our guest when we were buying our house, our latest house. So Brent Rasmussen is the owner of Mortgage Specialists, and he is the lone mortgage loan originator in the United States to hold all 5 lending certifications, making him one of the most qualified experts in the field of home lending. So that's how I know him through through buying this house. But his incredible career as a competitive athlete is just as impressive. So get this. So Brent was a professional minor league pitcher. And after an accident, he redefined what athletics meant and went on to become the captain of the U.S. men's sitting volleyball team and the U.S. wheelchair softball team. As a member of the Omaha Barons wheelchair softball team, he has gone on to win 13 World Series titles. He is also an adjunct professor and deeply committed to our community, serving as president for several local and national organizations and nonprofits. Brent, welcome to our show.
Thank you, guys, ladies.
Thanks for being here.
You bet. I'm excited.
You're busy a little bit.
I do too many things. Yeah, I don't like to sit around very much. That's for sure.
I get that.
Yeah.
So could you, of the things that you do, is there, as far as sports are concerned, I should say, do you have a favorite?
Well, with my baseball background, playing wheelchair softball is probably, one of the things I'm most passionate about here locally, just making sure that people know there's an outlet for individuals that have a physical disability, that they can continue to still play sports. So after my accident, that was like the first consideration when I was laying in bed with my leg amputated and my other leg wrapped up was, what am I going to be able to do? Like, I'm not going to be able to walk very well or, be active. And with my family, they've always had high blood pressure and cholesterol. I lost my dad very early. So I was always wanting to be active instead of just always being in the gym working out. And sports was always that kind of outlet for me to get out and just do something versus just being on a treadmill and, walking forward for hours at a time.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you find the team? Like, how did you find out that there was this possibility to keep?
Yeah, well, thanks to media here in Omaha area and my background playing sports, one of the main writers in town put an article together in the paper. And unfortunately, that's how we end up finding a lot of disabled individuals is just by walking around in the community, seeing a story about them on the news and trying to track them down and reach out. And so Bruce Freund was a great friend of mine now, just called off the article at UNO, tried to get my phone number and reached out to me. And I was, from many stories, very reluctant to play disabled sports because to me, I don't know, it's not the same as playing able-bodied sports at the time, but I've come to change my thinking, obviously, on that and be much more open to playing all kinds of different disabled sports.
Yeah. I love that. Honestly, I was just going to ask you kind of what was that transition. Well, do you mind kind of touching on like when was the accident?
Yeah, so in 2002 in February, I got hit by a vehicle on the side of the interstate and amputated my left leg on the spot. And so after that, I spent about 30 days in the hospital, and then wheelchair ridden for a few months, and then just finally tried to get back into just work first of all. And then after I got back to work, that's when I got reached out for a call to start participating in disabled sports. And thankfully, it's the best thing that's happened to me, losing my leg. I've had so many more opportunities and so many more, sporting events that I've been able to participate in just because of that happening where, as a kid, you always grow up thinking you want to play in the Olympics, and represent the United States. I never would have thought I'd been in the Paralympics representing two sports and different things like that. So it's awesome.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I hear you, and it's kind of like Newton's theory, like bodies in motion stay in motion. It sounds like you are just as an elite athlete, continue to move, just itchy to keep going and going. Can I ask you what it was like to kind of adjust to what your body was capable to do after the injury, or as opposed to what it was before? Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah, so, honestly, sports just got me through, I think, my accident. Thankfully, I was, because in sports, you fail way more than you succeed, and people don't think of it that way. Like in baseball, if you hit 3 out of 10 times, you're like a Hall of Famer, which, one of the things you do in life that you fail 70% of the time, but you're still awesome at it, and so that's like everything. I've been playing golf a lot more and trying to get much better at golf, and it's so challenging to me, even though I think, well, it's just a ball, and can hit a baseball doing whatever, but it's like golf is such a challenging aspect. But all of my sports background really kind of drove me just to keep doing something and trying to be the best at it. Just from, even if I'm going in the mortgage business, I want to be the best I can be in it, or just whatever I do, I've always been driven. And that was kind of passed on from my dad. He did so many different things. He was just a postal carrier, carried mail for the post office, but he was also very active in sports, and we watched him play as an adult. But then he had 3, 4, 5 jobs, and whatever he wanted to do, he wanted to be very good at it, and it just carried over to me. It's like, okay, can I do that or can I not? And after I got my prosthetic leg, besides running a long distance or sprinting, everything else was open for me to do. And so playing in a wheelchair for softball, or for sitting volleyball, playing down the court, it just was a little bit of a adaptation to figure out how to do it. But once you got it going, it was very much the same as playing regular sports.
Awesome. I love that. I played volleyball in college. I went down and played Georgia. I'm a short outside hitter, whatevs. But I'm a jumper, so I find that it creates, when I play other sports that have an approach, I end up doing some kind of little jump situation with it. So there's like a little control issue for me in that one. So I think maybe like reeling me back might help me if I were to, try to do something else and not specialize in it, but just try to train in a different field. So what is it? Let's go back. Let me go back. Let's talk about the leagues in different sports. How did you find, like you said that you used social media or people reached out, but you founded a league, did you not? Or you founded the team in,
or U.S. what?
U.S. softball team. So basically, the Wheelchair Softball League has been around since about 1975.
Okay.
And our local team started back up in the late 90s, but they were always real close to becoming, there was 2 different divisions, a 1 and 2, and they were always in Division 2. But once I started playing and we recruited more and more players, we just kind of all meshed really well together. And we see this happen that, we might still be the best athletically, but we see other teams that are very similar athletic. But when you go to large cities like Chicago or Minneapolis, there's a lot more different personalities than I can say out of the Omaha area. We still have that Midwestern feel where everybody's kind of nice to each other and gets along and doesn't really, take anything to the far extreme, and everybody respects each other. And so because of that, the Nebraska Barons team has been going on and winning, and we've been, super excited because I didn't realize there was even adaptive sports that were out there, playing and growing up as a kid. Unless you were exposed to an individual in your class or your school, you just didn't know that was even a thing, right? And we run into families all the time that we just say, hey, we see a kid or an adult in a wheelchair, and you go up to them and you would think it's a weird conversation, but you kind of just have to, get into it and tell them, hey, do you know this exists? Can you, do it? And there's a lot of guys that never played sports before their accidents or whatever and come out just because they want team camaraderie or they just want to be together with a group. And that's a lot of times what teams are about too, is just getting out of the house, getting together with some friends and making something, a goal and working together towards it. So,
right. That sense of community.
Definitely.
100%.
So you were involved with helping, I think I was reading your bio and involved with like volleyball in some sort, starting up either a tournament or competition league?
Yeah, so when I got my first year playing wheelchair softball, they introduced me to sitting volleyball. I never heard of it, and my ex-wife was a volleyball player as well too, and I'm always around volleyball players. And so I was like, well, yeah, that's something that probably naturally fits with a baseball throw and a swing and trying to just go figure it out and play. But then I qualified for the team. We went to Argentina. We won the Pan American Games. Then we ended up being in the 2004 Paralympic Games in Athens, Greece. And we didn't do so well. We got, 6 out of 8 teams or whatnot. But that's still the highest finish the United States has finished in sitting volleyball in the last whatever amount of years. But I also learned from my other sports that, hey, there's nobody in the United States doing it. There's no groups that are playing, and you need to play and practice to get much better. And so my thought was, hey, let's get people involved, and the more we can get involved, the more athletes we might have to choose from. So, yeah, I started a tournament, and it got to be a really small tournament to start with of 3 teams, and towards the end we had 24, 30 teams, and it was a lot to manage on my own, and then COVID happened, and then we kind of, kind of paused it for a while. I know a lot of people are asking, let's get it back together, but I'd love to. It's just a lot of work and manage and all that stuff. And there wasn't any, major gain out of it. We got a lot of athletes that were participating and playing, but we just ran into this wall of trying to get the disabled involved. And that's a big problem we run in the United States, is a lot of individuals don't have access to transportation, or they don't have the monies to be able to afford equipment and cars and driving and all that stuff. So we do find a lot of people, but when you want to go participate in the sport, you got to travel to a larger city and compete against other teams, because there's just not as many individuals participating like there is in able-bodied sports. So it's a challenge, and it's always been a challenge. I don't necessarily know how to fix it, except for we try locally here to raise as much money as possible. But I played on the volleyball team for a good 10 years and then sat on the board at USA Volleyball for 8 years representing the athletes. So I do a lot of give back now, more on the organizational side, I say, on the board side, fundraising, putting together bylaws and rules and, making things continue to move forward, because, while I want to still continue to play, at some days I'm like, it's nice not waking up and being sore and having to work out every day and all of that stuff. As you know, as an athlete, it's like, it's a job to be an athlete. And it took a toll on me, running a business and being an athlete full time. I mean, I remember one year I was out of town 40 weeks out of 52, whether I was speaking, traveling, playing, and it was a lot. Some athletes now, thankfully, because of sponsorships, can just be an athlete, a Paralympic athlete, where when I started to play, there wasn't any funds available. So you had to have your own job and then have flexibility to leave, 20, 30 weeks a year. What company is going to let you do that, and still get your stuff done? So by starting my own company, it allowed me to work from wherever I wanted and make that happen. So a little juggling act.
That's great, yeah.
So you're involved with other organizations, right? So what other kind of charity work do you do? Or
so right now I'm the president of the Nebraska Adaptive Sports, which is the organization that helps fundraise for athletes participating in wheelchair basketball, wheelchair softball. We do a lot of different things: rugby, sled hockey, wheelchair tennis. There's a lot of different organizations. We also have a big junior kids sports camp every summer, and a lot of times that's how kids get exposed to the sport. It's a whole week-long camp, and all they do is different adaptive sports that the kids enjoy, and they get to meet other kids that are just like them, and they also get to feel like a kid in a camp, and participating. So I do a lot with that. This last few years I've kind of picked back up into UNO baseball, and I chair their Diamond Club, which is really just like the past alumni players, but also we do a lot to fundraise for the team. Just there's not enough money ever to go around for all sports, and so I do a lot there. And there's a couple other nonprofit groups I still stick around. I'm also a really big wine collector. So I like wine a lot. And so there's a couple groups in town here that I'm a part of. And now, of course, got asked to be on the board. And I've been asked to be on a lot of different boards. At some point in time, I'm like, I got to say no. I love and I'm passionate about everything I do. But, time gets in the way. There's not only so many hours in a day.
Right. Yeah. Can you do a little plug in if anybody wants to donate to the adaptive sports?
Yeah. So you can go to nebraskaadaptivesports.org, and you'll see a big donate button there. Any little bit helps. We usually get about $30,000 in grants each year, but most of that goes towards travel and wheelchairs. So we currently carry probably about 60 some wheelchairs of different sizes. So athletes, if they do come out and don't have the equipment, wheelchairs are $3,000 to $6,000. And so it gets to be a lot there for individuals that might not have access to buying a chair to try it out first and then figure out what size they need and what they want to do and such like that. So, Nebraska Adaptive Sports, we do a couple events. Actually, what's interesting this year is we're hosting the International Wheelchair Softball World Series out in Elkhorn on the new field that was just built, and it's going to be super exciting because we're going to have 20 plus teams from all over the world and the United States coming in town to play, and so it'll be fun because we're always a good team and our local community supports us a ton. I'm in a couple different business networking groups, and a lot of my friends in there, they've all just stepped up and helped donate through the years, and it's been great. So, yeah, if anybody wants to, we'd love to have them check out or volunteer. We have practices. We have things that are always need to be done. We run a big golf outing trying to raise money. So, just the little normal things every board does.
Right. When is that? When is the tournament?
It's going to be August 15th to the 17th.
Okay.
So it's at the end of the season, and hopefully, Nebraska Barons have been in the championship game nearly every year for the last 20 years, but hopefully we'll be there again. The last couple of years we've lost to Japan, and so it's kind of a big rivalry that's coming about now between us, Nebraska, and the country of Japan. So
at least you have home field advantage now.
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're hoping for with fans and everything else like that. We'll get some more cheering.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's going to be great.
Awesome.
So I was telling Dee about this park I'd heard about in Des Moines, outside of Des Moines actually. But so they have these plans to make it like an accessible waterfront. So it's Easter Lake Park, and it was exciting to hear they're going to have beach mats to make it easier to make it to the water, adaptive equipment rentals, and planned even down to like extra wide sidewalks so that just in every day, just using it, it's accessible to everybody. And to me, that sounded like an incredible opportunity for like the Des Moines metro area. But it got me thinking about like recreational activities in like Omaha Metro, and where do you see like possibilities of improving accessibility overall, not just in nature, but
yeah, it is finally taking a big uptick here because of other communities putting together equipment. So again, Bruce Freund is on our board and been very passionate about Paralympics for a lot of years and adaptive sports, but he went to the city, probably about 10, 20 years ago and said, hey, look at all the parks that are out there. How many of them are accessible for individuals that are in a wheelchair to play with their kids or families? And the city was like, maybe Pipel Park on Center Street and 78th. And that was really all they had. And so Bruce raised about $1.5 million to build our wheelchair softball field down at Seymour Smith. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, there's also a smaller field for all different kinds of kids that's a little padded. So if they're in a walker or using a walker to play or something, they can still participate and not worry if they fall on the concrete and, break a bone or something like that. But on top of that, they also built a wheelchair accessible playground. So if individuals are in a wheelchair and they have, kids that are not, they can still go on this playground with them. There's been a couple other parks that have been built in the community thanks to Bruce and just having connections and asking the city to think about that happening. And I think it's passing on to other communities. I think there always could be more because we have people that go down to this adaptive playground, but most of the time it's just able-bodied kids, playing on it. So they don't even necessarily know, but it's accessible even for, my grandma or my mom, which we call grandma, who takes care of my son sometimes when he was growing up. They would go down there and play because it's at least accessible for people that maybe, don't walk as well or great. You're not going to climb up this huge playground thing, but if it's flat and it's wide, it's open, you can walk on it. It's great for everybody to participate. And so I think, the city could look at it. And I love the park downtown. We went down there and I feel like while everything can't be adaptive, we understand that, but a lot of the wide open spaces are, and there's ability for people to make it through the whole park and use part of it if you are, in crutches, in a wheelchair, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Side note, I know Bruce.
Very good.
I worked at West. I was an educator at Westside, and my kids both graduated from there. But the Frank's lovely.
Yeah, and Brett's wonderful too.
Amazing. Yeah,
they both are great.
Right.
Yeah.
You brought up some key words. We wanted to talk about kind of some of the issues, or how it's evolved accessibility wise in Omaha, but. Accessibility, adaptability, availability of it. That brings up a really interesting point. Is that accessibility doesn't just mean for anybody with a physical disability. There is, the age. There's people who don't want or cannot access certain things around the city. Is there any other issues besides just like public or Parks and Rec? Is there any other, like I was saying when Kim and I were talking, it was, I lived in the Old Market for years. I'm like, I, as an able-bodied person walking around the Old Market when there's an event going on, find it extremely difficult to maneuver walking around. And I can't imagine anybody where if they had any kind of physical disability, then what? How can we improve? How can we make it better for everyone, I think?
Yeah, most definitely. And, my team always jokes and they say I'm really not even disabled because I'm just like missing a foot, And so to them, they, I think they enjoy having me on the team because we do very well together. But there's lots of struggles that they talk to me about and saying, I don't have an understanding completely of what they go through. And I can say that's honestly the truth because I don't live in a chair all day long. But these guys do, and they're exposed to all kinds of things that aren't easily accessible, like you said, or getting through places. My son is really, because he's grown up with me and disabled individuals, he's huge on it, and he follows all these guys on YouTube, and so every time there's somebody that's educating somebody about disabled sports, he's like, look at this, Dad, these guys are doing this. And I watched a video the other day that they put a train horn on this kid's wheelchair, because like a lot of times when people are pushing a chair, because of the height difference, you don't even notice, right? And so sometimes people are just cutting in front of you, and I've seen that from our players, like, it's kind of like you cutting somebody off with a car, you think of it that way, but if they're in a wheelchair, you don't think about it. So you're right, there's lots of things in the community that can be better, but obviously as we're building new projects, they're making sure, including ADA, and making everything accessible, and it's a lot better. They joke and want to travel a lot more and do more things, but it's certain cities, you go to Europe, and that's even way worse than what we have here in certain places, just older, and they don't rebuild everything and such like that. So there's lots of little concerns in the community. I don't know how well to address every one of them personally, but I know from fact, because we have a great friend the other day that wanted to take some guys on our team hunting, and they haven't been hunting in years, because if you don't think about it, like, hey, if you're in a wheelchair, how do you cross the whole cornfield or get up in a tree stand to go hunt or whatever? And while it still can be done, just thinking through all those things. And they went out there, and while it wasn't perfect, both parties, the able-bodied and disabled people, worked together to make the hunting experience happen. They shot a deer, and they had a successful day. So, those are super fun things I see happening in the community that just, they are awesome here. I think Omaha people are just great and trying to, think about everyone. But obviously there's always more that can be done.
Yeah. Let's go back to the wine. Let's go back to wine.
Wine, okay.
Yeah.
We could go back to wine.
I was like, let's make a note of that. So what are some of your favorite places to go? Or where are some of your favorite places to go for wine as a wine connoisseur?
What are these clubs too? Yeah, tell us that too.
Yes. So I don't even know. Well, I got introduced from a friend. They're called International Wine and Food Society, and there's chapters all over the country. And it's really food and wine. Most of all the people obviously get connected because of the wine, but the food is also amazing. So there's almost a chapter in every large city in the country. We have 3 chapters in Omaha, which is kind of unheard of. But basically what we do as a board is each month we'll go to a restaurant and we'll work with the chef to rent out the whole facility and have them do a 4, 3, 5-course meal. And then we pair wines with those courses and try different wines with different foods. It's not the most inexpensive thing to do, but it's super fun. You know, I tell people the dinners range from $200 to $300 a person, so it's not like it's inexpensive, but for what you get and the different wines, because our local chapters here then go buy wine and they store it and they keep it, and then over time, obviously, it should appreciate, or you know, you get a better value. And that's how I started collecting wine, was just a little bit at a time, and now I have over 5,000 bottles and a cellar that's, you know, size of this room. So it's a fun deal. I love being a numbers guy. I love history, and I love, you know, that stuff. So I'm always thinking like, well, you have a bottle of wine, you can never recreate that bottle. Once you open it and drink it, it's gone, right? And so it's just kind of interesting. So I love Napa Cabernets, and that's mostly what my cellar is full of. But what's interesting about the wine group is we drink all kinds of wines from everywhere, which is fun. Yeah. You know, you might not be interested or can't get to French wines, but every so often we'll have a French compared to Italian wines. And it's a different experience to try different wines and see what you like and don't like. And, you know, I always like to ask people, what kind of wine do you like? And they might say, I like wine from Hy-Vee. I'm like, that's cool. You like wine. And some people like us are like, okay, we kind of collect a little bit more higher end stuff. Yeah. But, you know, I love wine. So I drink wine nearly every day.
Okay. So any recommendations that we can get
locally? Oh gosh, you know, yeah, there's lots of great wine stores in town. I buy a lot from Omaha Wine Company, and everything in there is amazing. I mean, the good and the bad thing is the price point's $50 to $100 and plus, but everything in there is absolutely amazing. So we have a good selection of wine stores in town, from Spirit World to, you know, not Barrel and Vine, but there's another one out west as well. I can't think of the name now, but there's some great wines, and I just like, you know, I don't know, the whole idea behind what it happens, like taking a grape and making it into this thing is kind of like, I don't know, it's amazing to me. Like, it can't even be done. I don't understand chemistry or physics because not that smart, but what they actually make happen is just incredible. So, yeah.
Okay, so pairing wise, do you have a restaurant that
I was going to say, like, I just touched upon like Spirit World. I love going to Spirit World because like when I love wine, but I'm always still learning. And so you can go into Spirit World and be like, all right, so this is what I'm cooking tonight, and this is my budget. And they will just walk right over to the perfect wine to go with it every time.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
I think that's really good. I don't think a lot of people know that you should actually do that.
Right, they love it. Like, give them a challenge. Yeah. They're like, yes, here, try this, and it's perfect.
Any restaurant?
I don't know. Brent, what restaurants have good wine lists?
Well, one of my favorite is Boiler Room downtown. I don't get there more than, you know, once every few years, but their wine list is incredible. And talking about actually, you know, amazing somms that go down there and ask what you want to eat and pairing it, it's just a different experience. I mean, there's some other great restaurants in town, tons of great restaurants with wine, but I just happen to like the experience there and the, you know, view and overlook the kitchen and, you know, all that stuff. So I like to eat too. So I work out so I can eat mostly and have good wine.
Yeah, right?
It's kind of a bad reason, but that's what I do.
Hey, it's all good. Whatever works.
Whatever works, yeah.
So you're a Napa Cab guy.
Yep.
Is there a wine that you've tasted recently that you're like, oh, well, that's nice, that you didn't or you hadn't tried before?
Yeah, I just had one just the other night now that I'm trying to think of the name of, because actually I'm such a nerd that I inventory my wine on an app, and then it also gives you drinking windows and time frames. And I think it's Guarachi, Guarachi was a wine that I just had a couple nights ago. I bought it somewhere and it's been down in my cellar, and I'm like, hey, it's time to pull this one out. And it was great. It was like a $60, $70 bottle of wine, which is not cheap, but not expensive, and super fun. And so that's kind of even what I do when I travel. I go to different wine stores and see what they have that might not be here, and just pick up different stuff and bring it home and put it on the wine racks, and then wait a few years and drink it when it's ready, you know? So it's kind of it's a crazy habit, but hobby, or whatever you want to call it. Friends of mine think I'm nuts, but for having that much in wine. So then I have to get insurance for the wine because you don't want it to go bad, because
yeah.
So I got insurance for wine. So there's all kinds of things that you never thought about. So we have enough wine. I could fill a wine store up. So I figured, well, I better make sure and get it insured. Because we had a water flood from a water main break last fall, and we had to move all of the wine into a different location and then move it all back. So it was a lot to reorganize and put back up. So it took us, I don't know how many boxes we had, hundreds and hundreds of wine boxes of wine moved. So I don't advise doing that if you don't want to. That's not very much fun.
You had insurance on the wine. So even though if you don't have flood insurance, you had insurance on.
Right.
Wow.
And it didn't go bad, so I was good. But I forgot it covered in case, a tornado, or it's kind of like a collectible, And so
100%.
if it, something here in the Midwest, we get all kinds of storms, so it's goofy. I don't want to lose it, but if it gets hit, our whole house is wiped out because it's in the basement. So, it's a good
that's
time.
A very interesting place to hunker down during.
That's our tornado shelter. Is our wine room. We go down there, and then we figured we might as well open up some good stuff because if we get hit by a tornado, we're not going to take the wine with us. So,
All right. So favorite cab. What's your favorite cabernet?
Gosh, we have a lot of them. Our new favorite cab that we've been drinking is called Seavey, Seavey. It's been there for many, many, many years. It went through even the Prohibition, but not cheap wine, but it's awesome. So I've been I've been collecting a little bit of that here and there. So we just went out this last time to Napa in November and hit about 9 different vineyards, and they were all very, very good. So I could just go out there all the time, and there's just so many new vineyards every year and different places. And Ragushi is one of our favorites too. So there's some names. If you get out there, you'll have to reach out, and I can give you some places to stop and go to, because I'm always surprised by how many vineyards every day. Like you said, hey, what's good wine? I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many. And then I'm part of this wine group now, and I'm like, all these other guys know all these other places, and I'm just trying to remember them all is next to impossible, but it's a fun project. That's why I stay with just Napa, because then you got France and Italian wines and Argentinian wines, and it's like, holy cow, it's just mind-blowing how many vineyards and wines are out there.
So fun story, part of our our honeymoon was to France, and we were just getting into wine, and so we were used to here in the States going to the winery, and there's a tasting room or whatever, and so we went down to Burgundy because our favorite wine was from down there, and we tried to go to wineries, and it's essentially just going into somebody's house. I think we were in someone's basement. They didn't speak English, we didn't speak much French, and I was just I don't think we're supposed to be here. And so it turns out most of the wine, we had to get a guy that eventually the next day would take us properly, but it was so awkward at first. We were just I thought we could just try your wine, and in someone's basement.
These people, they walked into our house.
This is why French don't like us very well. Americans just come right in.
Give me your wine, we'll buy it.
That's amazing.
It was typical.
Yeah. Typical Kim. Yes, I would agree. I would absolutely. I love that story. It was
just we're just standing around.
Oh, I'm gonna have to take you up on that though, because
are you a wine connoisseur?
Well, I was a wannabe for a very long time.
Yeah,
but I was immersed in groups of people that really weren't. We were traveling a lot and professional sports and whatnot. It was just a lot of beer and whatevs. But I really like wine, and as I've gotten older, I really gravitate towards really good wine. And so I've gone to a couple tastings where I'm like, man, God, I need to get a better job so I can make a $1 billion so I can really, have an amazing cellar full of amazing wine. Yeah. I will take you up on that. I think I'm going to need your recommendation.
Well, I have so much wine. I can always give you some and try it out and let me know. There's lots of websites I get emails from, and lately I've had to slow down the purchasing, which is a good thing because I don't have any room for it anymore. But, we still go through it and such. So we have lots of wine we're always giving away or donating to. They're great donations that we give away to different nonprofits. They're always looking for something. I'm like, well, here's a 6-pack of wine. So that's always something that we love to do at Mortgage Specialist too. So just give away that type of stuff and make it all happen.
Well, I love that you say that because I've sat on a couple boards, honestly. And I think sometimes you're just you don't want, I like the idea of other nonprofits giving to nonprofits or whatever, or charitable, paying forward. But I like that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things in the community that we try to do, and just support, but there's a ton. And that's why we go out of town and go, why is Omaha, so, I don't know, just like immune to economies when they go up and down. And I think, a lot of it is because we have so much access to grant money thanks to many rich people. We have a ton of nonprofits, and those nonprofits keep the economy going. We don't have we're not big on, I don't know, hotels and travel, or retail or whatever these different communities are, manufacturing. But we have a really good, diverse community. But I think this Omaha area just supports nonprofits. We have so many that are awesome. And I wish I could do way more with my time. But it's like, there's just lots of great causes that exist out there.
Mm-hmm. And they stay here.
Yeah.
They stay here. There's something about this place. It pulls you in once you're here.
Yes, Omaha's a great place.
You stay.
I know. I thought I was going to be leaving. Like I thought I was going to be living
100%.
abroad or something. And I'm like,
100%.
no, I like it here.
Then
we could travel.
But you're natives.
Yes.
Yes. I'm a 24-year-old. I'm a transplant for 24 years now.
Wowzer.
As of the first of this month, and but I stay. Like I thought I was gonna I'll be here for like a year. Spent so many years traveling, and then got a great job. Yada yada yada, and now I'm here 24 years later.
Yeah, Omaha's a great place. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got all seasons. The winter stinks, but
I mean, I'm from Toronto. Let's be real.
Oh, so you got it better. It's not the end of the world.
But it's all good. No, Omaha's great. It's a great, community. It does have a pool, though.
Yes.
Just really, really cool.
And it's getting bigger and bigger. I think more people are finding out how many good things are going on with cost of living and all the 9 yards. So it's great in that regards.
Yeah. I like the integration. I like that you picked. There's something really special about Omaha about making art part or the cultural pieces that we are trying so hard to integrate. It does become part of the fabric, part of the rebuild and the revamping of everything. Which segues into our last question. Yes. We're trying to do this final question with every guest that we have.
Wonderful.
Kind of pulling it back to, the theme of the blog and the podcast. I'll let Kim ask the question. I will ask it.
So where do you find inspiration in Omaha?
I find inspiration, honestly, just like I was mentioning before, is just the people and supporting nonprofits and supporting everybody in Omaha. I mean, it's just like every time there's an event, and going and get invited to a nonprofit event, how many people show up and are supportive of whatever? And while they might not support that same cause every single year, if your friend asks you, hey, we have a table at this, gala or this event or whatever, people show up and fill up. I mean, I used to be on the board at First Responders, and they just had a big hockey game, and the whole stadium is full to watch the police and fire. It's just that stuff is really where Omaha seems to be, to me, different. And again, I haven't been to many other cities to see that, but I think some of the large cities, I feel like you get lost maybe in the shuffle of all the different things there are to do, where Omaha's a small but big city or a big but small city. So, as we were talking before, there's just so many different connections in Omaha. You're not 5 connections away from somebody. You're like 2 in Omaha, but you go to these events and it's just awesome to me of what they do. And just driving up Dodge Street, I was downtown, and just all the extra things that are happening. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Like everybody says, well, it's a really kind of bad time to do stuff. Rates are high and this and that. And you look around and every building's getting redone, and we're getting new libraries and downtown. And, I think all the give back people do in Omaha is just awesome to me.
Fantastic. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about, or anything on your mind?
Well, just thank you guys for getting the word out, especially about adaptive sports. That's always a big passion of mine, of letting people know, if you know someone, and I get calls often. Hey, so-and-so friend, is in the hospital because of this accident. So-and-so, my brother did this. And whether we can just go up there and talk with them and say, hey, I know what you're going through, or I might not, but I have somebody that I know that is going through something. I think it's way easier to get through the situation than just trying to guess and figure out on your own. And not that I know everything about every disability that's out there, but there's a lot of people on our team that have been through stuff, whether they dove in a pool and become paralyzed by hitting the bottom of the pool, or falling out of a tree, or becoming electrocuted, or having cancer as a kid, no one teaches you how to be prepared for this stuff. So hopefully somebody that's been through it can say, hey, it's not the end of the world. Look, it might stink for these next couple of years, but you'll figure out your way and you'll figure out different things. And if sports there, cool. If it's not, at least you have somebody to connect with that can help answer, what it's like to go through those scenarios. Because I don't, a lot of people say, you go do a lot of counseling and stuff? And I go, no, not really. I didn't really talk to a lot of people about it. But I think being around athletes that are in the sport that have been through it just was conversations. Like, you didn't get really deep. Guys don't really get really deep anyways. Yeah. But it's still just like, hey, knowing playing next to you that you've been through the same thing I have, I think just gives you a good feeling that you're in the right place. You're moving on and being successful in life. So, if there's anybody out there that runs into someone, hey, reach out to us. We can connect with them. And we do lots of just meeting people to make sure that they know, that life's not over because they had a disability or an accident or, anything of the sorts.
I know that was the last question. Okay. I don't know if we can cut this into a different part of it earlier, but I did want to ask you, kind of the correlation. I mean, again, I was an educator, and I tried to make analogies between what sports, competitive or team sports, can do as far as like teach life skills. Do you feel, I hear you speaking, I kind of feel like that's kind of a shared.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, it's all those little things that you just don't remember, like actually getting to practice on time and being consistent about going to practice, and just making sure when you're there, sometimes you might not feel 100% and you don't want to even practice that day, but you push yourself into, becoming better and doing all you can each and every day. And every day you're not giving 100%, just like when you go to work, every day you can't be like full bore 100%. You don't feel good some days. And that's the same thing. I think sports prepare you for just, everything, being disciplined, working with other people, connecting, just all kinds of things that, I never studied it all, but you're right. That's where I think I get a lot of my motivation and passion from, is just from sports. It's like, hey, why go to practice all day long and not be the best you can be? Try to be better while you're there. Let's do something with it. So I think sports are, and they're not for everybody. Whether it's, I consider sports to be piano, I consider sports to be yoga, I consider sports to be whatever you want to go do. You're doing those things and you're showing up every day, and it just makes you a different person, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
My kids just started getting into robotics, and it's competitive, but like collaborative. And it is just like going to a sporting event when you go to these competitions where like the parents are all around getting ready to, like, they're checking the scores. And these kids who, like, my son used to try to do some sports and he's just not into team stuff. But just robotics, it's amazing to watch. Anyway, so
and like my son is not competitive at all either. We've got him in all sports and he never liked any of them. And so, but he gets really competitive on video games and he loves Legos, and they start doing, he's now doing a lot of my YouTube editing and such. And so they just find their different way, but it's still whatever that is, they're getting involved more than, not, and being responsible. And that's what it takes, I think, to make it in life.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a nerd too. I don't think that, from debate to like being an artist to like being an actually competitive athlete. And I found out not until I was an adult that I'm actually not very competitive, but I'm a high achiever. Okay. So it's kind of some of those things that we're just kind of making those correlations between, what competing, or traditional competing actually is more so achieving, working to achieve your personal goal. Kim and I, side note, we did our first marathon together.
Oh, wow.
In 2005.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was, that was an interesting one as far as like achieving a goal. We did it for the Leukemia
I wasn't much of a runner.
Society.
I didn't run at all, really, when you asked.
Wow.
And I was like, I thought about someday. Let's do it.
Yeah. Because I was like, I want to do this. I had 4 surgeries on my foot, and I was like, I want to get back into shape to do something. I was like, I want to run a marathon. Let's do team and training. And Kevin's like, Kim wants to get running. So then I was like, all right, let's go. So we did our first marathon. And it's, honestly, that was pretty life-changing.
It was.
Yeah.
Because, then I went on to, like, I wanted to get all the team and training events. I wanted to do the Triple Crown. So.
It was great. It's just funny how you think, like, just the mind shift.
Yes.
Yeah. You can
I think it's
achieve that.
crazy people do triathlons. I would never even think about doing a marathon. First of all, I hate to run, but I just
I'll
seem
never
like
do
I
it
would like
again.
die.
Yeah.
So like to me, I can't do that. But yeah, I even try. I mean, all that stuff people do, it's like unbelievable to me that you could run 26 miles and not die.
Ironic,
I would.
coming from your, as we spent this last hour talking about your story, I'm pretty sure you'd be just fine.
I don't know.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So is there anything else?
No, I think we're good. Thank you
Cool.
guys.
Thank you so
This is
much.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
great. Thanks for listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast. We want to thank our guest, Hurrdat Media, all of you for your support, and the Omaha community at large.
So from Dee and I, keep on exploring.